Buenas, bienvenidos de nuevo al Follett, los Pilares de la Tierra, libro 3. Comenzamos con la aventura a través del Viejo Continente. Amores, el libro. Okay.
You're still here.
Oh, it's you. I'm just trying to get my feet used to good solid ground again. The last bit of our voyage wasn't exactly my pint of ale.
I'm looking for someone. A red-haired mason called Jack Jackson. He came to France about a year ago or so.
A fellow mason? Great. Unfortunately, I wouldn't know a thing. After all, I just arrived here with you.
I know, but should you meet someone like that on your journey, tell him Aliena of Shiring is looking for him.
All right. Jack Jackson. I'll keep an eye out for you.
Thank you. That hammer you're carrying, do you happen to be a mason?
Actually, I am. You have a keen eye, mistress.
Lo dijo antes también.
I guess I just know a mason when I see one.
To be honest, I haven't been one long. Just finished my apprenticeship in Salisbury. Before that, I used to shear sheep with my parents. But I guess that wasn't really for me. Father still hates me for leaving, though.
What will you do to find work here as a mason?
Don't know. That's for me to find out. All I heard was that the wages are better over here.
So you'll just travel from town to town and look for employment?
Right. And I was starting to say, a fellow mason told me about the abbey there. He said these Normans build their churches quite differently than we do back home. I need to see that with my own eyes. Maybe learn a thing or two.
Abadía de Lesay.
Do many masons go to Lesay?
I dunno. It's really just a tiny town. The mason who told me just happened to do some repairs there once. It's likely he told others as well.
I left my old life as well.
Scary, isn't it? To start off fresh and all that.
Well, you definitely sound more excited than scared.
Oh, I am excited. Wouldn't anyone be?
I don't know. Maybe.
Bueno,
Oh, thank you.
ya tenemos un lugar donde podemos llegar a ir. It's not Jack.
Good day. I am looking for someone. A traveler who came through here last summer. Oh, hush now. I need to talk to this man.
Looks young.
He was born at the beginning of summer.
What's his name?
I haven't given him one yet.
You should. He needs to know who he is. Makes growing up a lot easier. You said you're looking for someone.
The man I'm looking for looks a bit like you, actually. A bit more boyish, though.
So he has red hair, but no beard. Well, I don't know every redhead around these parts. There are quite a few of us. Most of my family here in Cherbourg is ginger.
Oh, his name is Jack Jackson, and he is a mason.
No, sorry, I haven't seen him. And I come here every day. Maybe a maid saw him. She helps the sailors get their cargo to the nearby towns. Carries travelers, too.
I'll ask her. Well, thank you.
Nice.
Hey, you. That's quite a bundle you got there. Where are you headed?
Have you seen a red-haired mason? He must have landed here sometime late last summer.
Another ginger in Normandy? I wouldn't have noticed, even if he was carrying a hammer instead of a fishing rod. Maybe you should ask someone in Barfleur. That's where all the travellers come through, the pilgrims and kings. Their lot rarely lands in Cherbourg, with the fortress passing back and forth between Stephen of Blois and Geoffrey of Anjou. Why you even came to Cherbourg in the first place baffles me.
It was the earliest ship I could get.
You must be in some hurry, madam.
Let's just say I needed to get away before I changed my mind.
Fine with me. Who am I to judge?
Barfleur.
What other routes are there besides going through Barfleur?
Oh, I don't know, really. You need to ask the locals about that. But Barfleur sounds like a good place to start. Shake my hand and I'll take you there.
Do you know the road to Lessay?
Been there, seen it. But I hope you're not planning to go there on foot. Tell you what, you give me some coins and I'll treat you to me wagon. You can even change your destination once we're on the road. What'd you say?
Bueno.
All right. Take me out of town.
All right. Where do you need to be?
Todos a la costa de Normandía. Barfleur o Lessay. Y así comienza nuestra aventura por Francia y después veremos cómo sigue la historia.
It was the biggest harbour in Normandy and the main entry point for the Normans to their new possession of the Isle of England. I talked to some of the sailors and fishermen, but no one had remembered seeing Jack. How could they? Almost a year had passed since he, a simple mason, had journeyed through the busy town, a town with no memory other than that of the last king who passed through on yet another one of his violent conquests. Maybe I was approaching this the wrong way. What had drawn him to France in the first place? The distance to Kingsbridge? Or something specific? What was my lead?
Bueno, tenemos Barfleur o Lessay. Sí, yo creo que lo más concreto sería ir a Lessay.
Lessay was tiny, but as it turned out, worth the trip. In the small abbey church of the Trinity, I met a monk who claimed to have talked to a man fitting Jack's description. He'd been fascinated by the abbey's rib vaulting and had asked the monks countless questions about the place's construction. The monk apologized that he couldn't tell me where Jack had traveled next, but I didn't mind. I lay down to sleep on the floor of the abbey guest house and, for the first time in almost a year, I felt relief. As I drifted into sleep, I hugged our baby tight and whispered into his tiny pink ear, "We're going to find your daddy."
Mont Saint-Michel.
My father had once told me
Este
tales
lugar
of
es espectacular.
Long ago, the Archangel Michael had urged Hubert of Avranches to build an abbey on a lonely rock on the ocean by burning a hole into his head. They say one can go and see his penetrated skull on display in the church of his hometown. It was a windy day when I arrived, and the place was crowded with pilgrims and jongleurs. I remembered Jack's fascination with these tellers of stories. I spoke to one who was just taking a break. As it happened, he had indeed met Jack, although not in Mont Saint-Michel, but on a road heading east from there. Apparently, Jack had been hopelessly tracking jongleur who might have known his father, Jack Cherbourg. But as he'd been gradually running out of money, he'd intended to look for work in Le Mans or Tours. That was about 6 months ago. I was catching up.
Yes. O de Mans. O Doors. 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 Nice.
Good day. Are you the master builder?
What is it?
I'm looking for a mason who may have passed through here. An Englishman with carroty hair. He calls himself Jack Jackson.
A redhead?
Yes. Did you see him? He might have asked for work here.
No, I'm not looking for new masons. We're just doing repairs.
Ah, but was he here?
No, never seen him. Now, stand back, woman. Something could fall on your baby's head.
Are there other construction sites around Tours?
Well, yes. It's a big town.
And where would an outsider most likely find a job?
Dunno. Ask around.
I was told he wanted to come here.
Maybe he changed his mind.
Are you sure you haven't seen him?
I am.
May I talk to your workers?
No, they're busy. And I can assure you they have nothing to say on that matter.
Perhaps I'll talk to them once they've finished for the day.
It would be a waste of time. All right, he was here. Was working for me. But I had to throw him out after 2 or 3 days.
Why?
Because he was all want. Let me redesign the roof, let me make the nave lighter. All pretty ideas, but he never shut up long enough to do the work he was supposed to do. Shit, that man was almost as needy as my son when he was still a brat.
He does know a lot about his craft.
Well, I know masons like him. They grow up gifted, but without a mote of discipline in their guts. Can't work with someone like that.
Do you know where he went next?
No idea. Maybe to Limoges or Angoulême. Maybe even to La Rochelle. Seemed to have plans for every cathedral on God's green earth, but none for himself.
I understand. I'll leave you to it then.
Bon voyage.
Bueno, nos vamos acercando. Oh. La ciudad portuaria. Let's go.
We had just left Tours when I suddenly felt dizzy. I stopped and made rest, trying to catch my breath, then lost my breakfast in a ditch at the side of the road. To my horror, our baby too had grown pale, his breath shallow like that of an old man. I tried not to panic, but the next inn was a long distance away and we couldn't stay on the road where it was wet and cold.
No.
Back in Tours, the fever got worse. I remember people carrying me into a room, laying me on a bed. I tried to feed my baby, but after that everything turned into a blur. When I awoke, Jack was standing next to my bed. He scolded me for following him. "You know you could go anywhere you want," he whispered. "Why be stupid and follow me?" I tried to answer, but he just opened the window and jumped out, heading toward ancient Greece, or maybe all the way to Arabia. And in my feverish mind, I followed him.
Joder. Grecia.
The further I went, the angrier I got. For years, I'd been fighting for my family. I'd committed myself to an oath to my father. I'd built up a business to sustain it and even married a man I despised so I could create a future for the people around me. I'd known nothing but my duty to the men in my life, while the man I was trying to find lived a life of casual irresponsibility. He travelled the world on a whim to learn about mathematics and philosophy, while I had to raise the child he'd fathered. When could I ever do anything just for myself? I asked the world as I went on.
Oh, Kingsbridge.
I'd travelled in a circle all the way to the edge of the world and back, only to return to the place of our failure. With my eyes closed, I listened to the sound of ripping yarn and crumbling walls, and of coaches carrying good people away into a cloud of crimson dust. When the last moat had settled, I opened my eyes again and found myself in a dirty little room. An old maid was sitting next to my bed and smiled at me, then handed me my baby. Oh, dear God, he still looked so pale.
¿Qué sé yo?
The more I tried to keep him warm, the colder he felt. I gently caressed his head until finally he put his mouth to my breast and drank more and more, becoming greedier with every swallow. We had both been spared. We rested one more day. Then I gathered my things and headed back to the cathedral to thank the Lord for his mercy. I thank you, dear Lord.
All right, steady now.
I thank you for having spared my child. I thank you for...
Don't let go until it's done.
But why are you showing mercy on me? I failed everyone I cared about. I failed Jack. I failed my brother. And if I never return, I would also break the oath I had given Father. It's just that I feel like I've never had a life of my own. I've always fought for others. And this may be the very first time that I fight for something that I only want for myself. Maybe I should just go back and help rebuild Kingsbridge. Maybe Jack doesn't even care for me anymore. Amen. Huh.
Mensula.
I've seen one of those before.
It's amazing, isn't it? The man who did that really had it in him.
Had what in him?
The spirit of a true Mason. It's a shame that the master let him go. In just 1 month, he did so many things.
What did he do?
He came up with ideas for how to make the construction easier. But the master didn't want to hear it. To tell you the truth, everyone thinks that he feared for his own job having someone like that around. The last thing Jack did was carve that corbel. It was the one thing the master let him do. Then when he was done, he was asked to leave.
Your master said he had no discipline.
Let me tell you something. Jacques worked very hard on it. He was impatient and had a temper, but you could see that he tried to overcome it. Conquering that rock was very important to him.
Oh, I understand that so well. Do you happen to know where he went next?
He wanted to walk the pilgrim trail to Santiago de Compostela.
The
Eso, España.
Camino? The way of St. James?
He said he might find someone there who knew his father.
Just one more thing. How was he when he left?
Never thought about that. Relieved, I guess. He seemed ready for something new.
Thank you so much for your help.
Think nothing of it. And good luck on your travels. May you find what you are looking for.
Isn't it odd? Just when you stop looking, you come across the most curious of things. Like these 3 devices that one of my merchants brought back from Baghdad.
¿Dónde es eso?
Oh no. Is it another one of your
Arabia.
Bambusa toys, Rashid?
They're not toys, Adriel. They're objects of scholarly ingenuity and reflection.
I will let my valued friend from the north do the honors. Jack, if you may.
Jack.
No,
Qué grande, Jack.
On second thought, why don't you save the lady for last? Otherwise, the other 2 devices might appear bland and boring in comparison.
I agree.
For one, let me draw your attention to the magnificent songbird on the table. And then,
No, it's too
to
heavy.
that wondrous donkey next to the entrance. Although, the most astounding thing of all stands right between them. That statuette. Haha, precisely. But one thing at a time. And now, Jack will hit the water in the tank. Let us let Jack decide what to demonstrate first.
Nice.
It's so beautiful it will make you cry. Just listen. Well, how marvelous.
How does it work?
Maybe it's a miracle.
Right.
Go on, Jack. Tell them.
Yes.
There's a hidden wheel inside the box. It turns an axle that in return raises and drops a sequence of small cylinders inside. These cylinders work like fingers playing a flute.
But who is blowing into the flute?
Steam.
Steam?
Yes. When I opened the pipe, it gradually pushed itself into the tube.
Power of steam. For once, I must agree. This is brilliant. Of course! It was created by a Muslim after all. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. What else have you got, Rashid?
Anyone care for some tea?
Thank you, my daughter. We will have some as soon as Jack has finished our presentation.
Mind if I watch?
Of course not.
So, who is this man, Rashid?
Jack is a friend of the house.
I could watch this man scoop up water all day.
A brilliant man, a scholar and a talented artist.
Nice.
Just the other day, he explained Euclid to me.
What is that?
Now, watch the head. Just any moment now. There. Did you see? It threw up. Rashid, this is disgusting. Oh, far from it. Would you kindly explain how it works, Jack?
You see that bowl floating on top of the water? At the bottom of that bowl is a small hole. Through it, the bowl is slowly filled with liquid. Once it's full, it sinks, pulling a string which makes the ball drop onto a weight. This, in return, pulls the bowl up again, emptying it in the process.
Thus resetting the entire mechanism.
If you timed it perfectly, you could make it drop a ball at every hour.
Turning it into a clock. How clever.
For me, it's still nothing more than a puking donkey.
Show us more, Rashid.
One could join those two and build a singing donkey clock. One song after every hour.
That would be pretty clever.
I know, right? You could be the one to build it.
Oh, that would be unfair. It's your invention.
I would let you have it. Or we design it together.
You still haven't shown us that statuette yet. Of course. Jack, if you may. A Greek who wrote a book called The Elements of Geometry. Oh, you will love this. Just watch. The Egyptians translated it into Arabic, and now the Englishmen are turning it into Latin. And now?
Just be patient, but don't look away. It takes some time for her to...
To do what?
Hmm?
Is it crying? Isn't that amazing?
No, it's irritating. Rashid, what is going on?
It's a mystery.
Rashid, please. We all know that there is no such thing as a man-made miracle.
And this piece of wood is very clearly made by man.
I very much agree, my friends. But so far, none of us has an explanation.
All we know for certain is that her glassy eyes shed tears when you move her from warmth into cold.
Like a plant at sunrise. Like dew. The only difference is the surface, that's all.
She's right.
Of course, I had no intention of disturbing your conversation. But if you can find out why there's dew gathering on a plant, you may understand why that woman is so weepy. So, who wants a cup of tea?
I'll have some.
Your daughter is quite something, Rashid. A scholar in her own right. I know. I'd rather she wasn't. It would make marrying her off so much easier.
Oh, I'm certain that won't stay a problem for long.
Maybe the dew originates from invisible water in the air. Water that stays hidden when it's hot.
Bueno, mientras tanto, en el camino a Santiago. ¡Guau, qué
The
pierna se
pilgrim
ve!
trails across France converged at Osterbat in the foothills of the Pyrenees. There, the group of 20 or so pilgrims who had been travelling alongside me since I'd left Tours swelled to about 70. Some were prosperous citizens, some probably on the run from justice, a few drunks, and several monks and clergymen. Several languages were spoken, including Flemish, a German tongue, and a southern French language called Oc. Nevertheless, there was no lack of communication among them, and as we crossed the Pyrenees, they sang, played games, told stories, and in several cases had love affairs. While my baby and I kept mostly to ourselves.
schön frech, die mit ihrem Kind.
Hush now. Hmm?
Qué irritante.
Richtig dreist.
Bueno, hasta acá va a quedar el capítulo de hoy. Comenzando por el libro a través de la travesía por el viejo continente. Siempre me gusta decir esa frase. Así que bueno, nos vemos en el próximo capítulo. Adiós.